Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leathercraft, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us or a good idea for a leather element, drop it in the comment box below. Now this week we're going to make a trunk handle. Old school term, but I've also heard purse handle, bag handle, and the totally uncreative leather handle. You know what? No matter what we call it, this is super easy to make, extremely strong, very professional, and the coolest point, because we've got a spine on the bottom, this sits in our hand super comfortably. That's what we're looking for. All right, now bag, absolutely. We can use these for a purse or bag. Make a pair, they are gorgeous. Again, very professional. But also, we can make a larger for a briefcase or a gun case, duffel bag, or a backpack. It's nice to have a little handle on the top of my backpack. We can add this to a pre-existing product or one we're working on, okay? Well, how about at this point, more strap, less flap. Let's step over here and knock one of these together. Now, to save us a little time for the element here, I've got our strap cut and ready to go. Yeah, nothing difficult there. Now, here's how I measured this. In fact, my cording is just nylon rope from a hardware store. I'm going to take the diameter times pi, 3.14. You know what? Let's drop the 0.14. So therefore, now I've got a circumference, but I want to add 1/4 of an inch to either side of that because I've got a bend, a stitch line, and I want about 1/8 of an inch outside that stitch line simply for strength, okay? Easy enough. So diameter times 3 plus 1/2 inch. Now when we jump over to length, this gets a little bit cloudy because if I've got an easy bow, I'm all the way out here, almost to 1 foot. But if I bring that bow in, make that much harder, now I'm down to about 8 inches. So basically we're going to lose about 1 inch. So if you need a strap length of 11, make it 12. Now, once we cut that, what I'm going to do is come in 3 inches. You'll notice on my billet end here, I don't have much room there. Well, that's okay. That's enough for a rivet or a screw or a small stitch line. But I'd prefer to add 2 rivet screws or a longer stitch line. So once I cut my length, I'm going to come in 3 inches from either end, and I'm going to mark that in my groove line. Now I've got a groove on this and a beveled edge all the way around. Now, before we jump over to chisel, because that's all we have to do now, is I've got some billet ends here. All manner of creative possibilities. I can drop this in. I can cut this on my end, both ends. Very cool. All manner of possibilities there. But also, to go another step in the professional direction, I can cut a billet, drop this in, and rivet both together, making that very professional. Okay, so, very cool. One more point. Saw this, forgot about it. We can actually make our cording out of a piece of leather. Now, to me, that's not the best route because I want that roundness to it because that's what makes it very easy to grip. So you can go with leather, but I tend to prefer some cording. All right, let's step over to our quartz, drop in our chisel line. Now, it's super easy to chisel. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch flat, my favorite simply because it looks just like a machine stitch, but also super easy to sew because we have ample room to get our needles through. Now I'm going to take my first tine and literally straddle the mark I've made. There we go, work that out. Now, I'm going to take my chisel, first tine, last hole, drop that in my groove line, because now when I get to the end, both chisel lines are going to be absolutely parallel, so I'll have no issues there. There we go, perfectly parallel, super easy to do. All right, let's step back over to our pattern table because we're going to add some contact cement to both our strap and our cording. Now on our glue, we can use a white glue or contact cement, the Barge, I love in the S18, excellent glues. We don't necessarily have to add glue, but the reason I do is because I've got a duffel bag that's got a trunk handle on it, 2 of them, and the cording over the years has worked its way out. There's no way to get that back in there. So I'd simply want to secure this in there lightly, and you'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some contact cement. I don't even have to go right up to my chisel line or my edge. I'm just going to add some contact cement down between my chisel lines, and I'm going to add a little bit onto my cording. Now, a little bit tough to do here, no problem. This is just some of our plastic sheeting. That's going to work nicely to protect my work surface. So, with our glue, let's just lay in some glue in between our chisel lines. All right, more than enough there. All right, let's jump over to our cording. Little stringy. Now this again, we don't have to have complete coverage on this. And there we go, just enough to secure this down, but one point I did skip. What I've done now is I've trimmed my cording down to the length of my chisel line. Therefore, I don't have that sticking out. But also, I don't want that a little too short. Now, we've got room for error again, but I don't want that too short so that this crimps down at the end of our cording. I want that a nice, even, consistent bend. All right, let's give that about 5 minutes to dry. All right, a little bit of dry time. Let's drop that in right down the center, right between our chisel line. Press that a little bit. All right, very good. Let's jump over to our sewing pony, and we're done. Now, if you're new to leather or new to hand sewing, we've got a great video. It's got all the tricks and tips in it, but we're just keeping it light here. We're going to use a saddler stitch, needle on both ends, at about 4 times my distance. So, easy to remember, through my first hole, I'm simply going to go through with 1 needle. There we are. Even that out, equalize the distance out there. All right, through my next hole, I'm going to go with both needles at one time. Going to cross over. There we go. Get that needle through my backside. And what I can do is pull down on the thread on my needles, so therefore the point actually goes over my finger. Now let's pull that taut. There we go. We're really going to start to crank down now. Good. All right, now it's going to be a little bit easier to sew. Both needles. There we go, right through. All right, my pony, I don't want to crank that down just yet because I don't want to get this off center. So let's get that in, pull that down taut. Very nice. Okay, I'm going to sew down to the other end and we'll tie our knot. And we're down to our second to last hole. Nice. Boy, that looks good thus far. Okay, on our last hole, I'm simply going to come through from one side. Come through from one side. Now we're going to tie a square knot. So let's really crank down on that. Now, square knot, I'm going to go right over left, circle around. Let's tighten that down hard, okay? Left over right, circle around, and tighten that down hard. Very good. That brought that right together. Now, with my knife, I'm going to use this part of my blade because I never use that, and I'm going to pull my thread across my blade instead of trying to cut into my thread. There we go. That keeps me from cutting anything. Let's see how that looks. Very cool. Look how straight, clean, and even that is. Very nice. Now, technically we're done, absolutely. But what I would like to do, since we've got a beveled edge all the way around, let's jump over to our main table and slick that. Give it one final touch. Now, I'll typically hammer down my stitch line once I'm done. A lot of benefits to doing that, but in this situation, not really necessary. Now, I want to apply my water, but I want to keep it from running across the face of the handle, just in case I'm going to use, say, a light colored dye or antique stain or no dye at all. All right, we've got some water on there. Let's drop that in, and I'm going to run my slick back and forth about a dozen times. And there we are. That looks good. Run my flat across there a couple of times. Well, that looks fantastic. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but I'm smooth, rounded, and I've got a glossy look. That is an extremely professional handle. Very cool. We now have a handle that is solid, strong, and very professional. You know what? Ready for dye top coat and to attach any way we want to. Now, one thing. We just use veg tan. Easy to see. But we have got some gorgeous leathers that are going to make some beautiful handles. And we've got some room for creativity there as well. I hope this is good information for you. Thanks for taking time to watch The Leather Element. Good luck with your projects.